is so freaking good. Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I'm a voice teacher. Today I will be continuing my series on professional and amateur singers singing the same section of songs, and we will be going with Alice in Chains, Layne Staley, highly requested, beloved, great singer, and Chad, awesome, cool dude from my Discord. So let's see how both of them sing Man in the Box. He sounds really open on that top. Like a lot of times people will get up to that first bridge area, the F sharp or so, and they'll start collapsing the sound. He has none of that. It's a really open sound. So that's something to keep in mind, that you're not collapsing internally, you're not collapsing the front of your mouth whenever you get into that middle part of your voice.
I'm the man in the box, buried in my spit.
Nice. I'm hearing a little bit of like an kind of thing. It's a little bit more closed in the back. It's a really consistent sound and I like it. It sounds kind of silky and smooth. And it's a really cool framing. Like, what a fun place to sing and record yourself. I know it's like an unfinished big garage, but I think it looks really cool and that is interesting to me. So the thing that I would like to work on with that is just opening up that backspace a little bit more to see if you find any more comfort with that and if we can get any different sort of sounds. It's maybe a little nasal, just just a little bit of that kind of sound versus It's not a huge change and what he's doing is working, but I do think that that would like be a better sound for him overall, and that's just mostly an aesthetic preference, but it's a fairly wide-held aesthetic preference. Is so freaking good. B flat, it's just like the most open sound. You can hear it's releasing up into his head voice because it's gonna be really freaking difficult to just pull chest up that high. It's a released sound. It's not like where you kind of try to pull that yelly feeling up a little higher. It's a slightly different configuration. Man, oh my gosh, he's just so good. Really consistent scream sound. It sounded like a nice fry scream, which I think is gonna be super easy to keep doing over and over because it doesn't feel like tight. It doesn't feel grindy. It's actually kind of a regenerative sound rather than something that takes a ton of vocal capital. When he gets to the E vowel, it doesn't sound too compressed, which tends to be a thing that happens. And again, that's like right in his bridge area on that E flat. Fee versus fee. It's how you form the vowel really makes a difference in terms of how easy it sounds and how open it sounds, which is obvious. Like once that clicks of like, oh, vowel is important, therefore every change that I make to my vowel will affect the overall sound. Like it's a really logical thing, but I think a lot of people think it's just more magical than that. It's like, no, just make little adjustments to your vowel, see how that affects the whole system. He's so freaking balanced. On that run, there was a little bit of like out of keyness, but I don't care. It sounds so good.
Jesus Christ, He who tried, feed my eyes.
Yeah, Chad has the same sort of thing on that fee. He's dropping the jaw a fair amount. Like it's not fee. It's really, really well sung, actually. The top end, he doesn't have as full of a sound, as kind of heavy of a sound as Layne does, but like, I thought that was fine. You can also see how On the G at the beginning of it versus the Fi, like the G has even more space because it's a fifth higher. It's a much higher note, and as we go higher, most vowels need a little bit more space for them to work a little bit better. E is, I think, one of the trickiest ones because E is the one that feels the least intuitive. Like when most people open to ah, it makes sense because they have to like open their mouth a little bit more to say ah, where you can get away with saying E and it's really tight. And so it doesn't feel like speech. J, E! At that point for him, I did hear it kind of open up a little bit more in the back. I didn't hear the same sort of closed nasality type thing that I heard in that first clip. The main thing that I'd want to work on with that is just making sure that he's relaxed physically. Overall, there's a lot of good stuff going on. And then once he gets a little bit more comfortable in his body, like maybe then start leaning into the sound a little bit more, trying to get a little bit more pressure, more energy, more volume, whatever word works for you. But it's not like super important because he's got a microphone. And that's why the first step isn't trying to just push it and get really big and loud. The first step is to try to relax everything, because as you do that, it's going to make the sound more whole, more full, more warm, more open, whatever the word is for you. But like, again, adjusting the vowel is going to overall affect this quality of sound coming out, and then the microphone can do all the work for him. It's like unfair how good he is. With him, he didn't go straight into the E. He kind of put a J instead of J, 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 J. If he was doing it without the vocal fry, which I bet he's totally capable of doing, because it sounds so balanced underneath it. So that's one way that you can kind of get around it, is just by making a vowel modification, because the E, it's just going to have a different tone to it. It's not going to sound as open and as full, and that's one of the things that makes the sound a little bit more rockin', is that diphthong that he adds, that J, G. It just doesn't sound the same. Both of them are good. Both of them are usable. It just sounds different.
Feed my eyes, Jesus Christ, He who tried, feed my eyes.
Yeah, so with him, I would want to explore kind of doing that change just to see if it's a sound that works better for the song. I think he's capable of both of them. There was that time he went to the A or the A flat and he had more of that kind of place. And you just hear like the way that the harmonics are arranged, the E, they just sound different. Like both of them I think are good, but like the E doesn't sound as intense up at the top how he's doing it. So some of that speaks to the vowel and to just like making sure that A versus A is what will sound best and what will tell his story the best and be something that he can trust the most and just feel the most authentic with. Because like maybe it's an E for him, maybe it's that A. When he gets to the feel, like both of them do that actually quite similar. The fee, it sounds really clear. The main differences that I'm seeing with them are in that upper range and in just comfort and overall power. So another thing to kind of think about with this, there was a little instability on Chad's upper E vowel on that B flat. That I do think is kind of that pressure thing. And that's where thinking learning how to get a little bit more energy, more chord closure should stabilize that a little bit more. If you just think a little louder, it might work, honestly, if we don't do any sort of exercise. But let's try doing a little exercise to see if we can find that extra power. He already has that nasal sound just a little bit, so I want to utilize that because I find in my voice, that's a really good way to kind of start not bearing down, but just leaning into the sound a little bit more. And so let's try with a with an octave slide on an en. So it's a French vowel en. French is a language that uses a lot of nasality in it. So I think that being able to sing a beautiful en is really important if you're singing French music. But it can also be, it's one of my favorite languages to sing in because of that use of nasality, because it just does awesome things for my voice at the top of it. So trying with an en slide, going en, and then going a little higher. En. You might hear in my voice at the top of that one, it kind of went, there was a little turnover that happens, and that is something that happens to me usually on the B flat or the B. If I don't let that happen, it starts feeling way too yelly, and that's kind of what I demonstrated earlier, where Layne let it kind of turn over into that different place. Okay, back to the en. You might want to put some vibrato on like I did if that's something that's comfortable for you. The vibrato kind of just loosens up your larynx. It lets it bounce around a little bit more, which I think is a really healthy thing for it to not be locked into one position. And try to get some volume on this. And I want to go up like a third or a fourth higher than what you're going to actually need to use it in the song, because then when you go back to the song, it's like, well, I just sang way higher than I did before, and there's that mental switch that kind of flips. A really slow slide. And then start coming back down with the same idea. And then we'll go a little bit lower than what we need to. So since this high note is the B flat, we'll go down to maybe the G. Let's keep going. Now I'm going to jump back up to that one that kind of turns over so you can hear the difference. Versus the one that doesn't as much. There's just a slight difference in the quality of that sound. So once you get used to doing it with that true nasal, it's like a very, very nasal sound, but that's the goal. I don't think nasals are bad. I think they're a tool that we can work with. Then you want to try going up on that nasal sound and then opening up into something a little bit more, well, less nasal at the top, and then coming down with that more open sound. So it's a Notice how similar they actually are up at the top. Like it's a little bit more similar than I think people expect sometimes. And as you do that, I think that you'll start learning how to kind of lean into that sound a little bit more, rather than just, there's that little bit of a back off that's happening. And doing it on these more open vowels, on the en and the rather than just on an E. But you can also do it on an E vowel. E, And after you know what it feels like to lean into the aw and the ah, doing it on the E, you might be able to get a little bit more punchiness too. So that's the main thing that I saw with Chad. Like, his voice is rocking. It sounds really, really good. It just doesn't seem like he feels as comfortable leaning into it quite as much yet. And I would love to see him do that, because I think it could just be this like really free release of sound, similar to what we heard with Layne. But like with Layne, I don't think he's thinking about all these things, because he's just trusting it. Like, he knows what all this stuff feels like. He knows what it all sounds like. He knows what the sound that he wants to be is. And he trusts that by just feeling the song, by feeling what he's trying to communicate, it's going to get across. As long as you just focus on that feeling, the tools will be accessed in the appropriate way. With Chad, like, I'm not sure if he's at that point yet, but like, I do think doing some of these exercises will help him trust that top end just a little bit more, so that he could at least fake it. Like, he's really right on the edge with that. And overall, so many things are going well. Those are the main differences I'm seeing between them. Both of them, I think, are really, really good. Like, as soon as I heard Chad's voice the first time that I heard him sing, I was like, oh man, there's a special instrument. There's a lot of really good stuff going on. It's just like a really special amateur instrument that I would love to see perform a lot more, so that he could get that experience. But, you know, then as soon as I hear Layne, it's like my face just melts off. I just get goosebumps. It just affects me in a slightly different way. But, you know, he was a really special performer. So thank you to both of them for sharing your talents with the world. And thank you for watching. If you are interested in submitting your own sort of video for this, that is a Patreon perk. There is a link in my description, and you can sign up for Patreon and connect it to a Discord account and go to my Discord and talk to me and Chad and all of these other nice friends over there. So I would love for you to go check that out. Links in the description. Thank you.